When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, Irene. User, LaTD0. Posted, December 14th, 1999.
My mother's name was Irene Dobbins, and if you ever knew her back when she had her mind, I don't need to tell you what kind of person she was. If you didn't, just picture someone who made iced tea from scratch and called everyone sugar, even strangers. She taught Sunday school, sang in the choir, ran the bake sale every spring. She didn't drink, didn't gossip, and didn't lie unless it was to protect someone's feelings. She believed in heaven with the kind of certainty that most people don't have about anything. Then, one day, she didn't know who I was anymore. It started small, misplacing her keys, forgetting names. She once drove halfway to Altoona before remembering she wasn't going anywhere. I thought it was stress, thought maybe she was tired or grieving my dad harder than she let on. But you don't need me to tell you how that kind of story goes. Eventually, she got her diagnosis: early onset Alzheimer's. She was only 68. I tried to keep her home as long as I could. Took a leave from my job at the bank, canceled everything that looked like a future. The house got quieter, the days longer. We did puzzles together, at least until she forgot how, and we watched old musicals she used to love, but she'd get frustrated halfway through, yelling at the screen like it had betrayed her. One time, I found her crying in the pantry, convinced she'd forgotten how to open a jar. The first time she forgot my name was a Tuesday. She called me Joyce, which was her sister who died in 1958. I moved her into a retirement community a few weeks later. Said it was temporary, that it'd be good for both of us, but I cried the whole drive home. At first, I visited every day. I'd bring flowers, do her nails, read Psalms to her, even though I hadn't opened a Bible in 20 years. She'd smile sometimes, call me sugar, hum little tunes under her breath. Blessed Assurance was her favorite, and that part never left. But things changed. She got quieter, more inward. Then she started talking about the Watchers. Now, she didn't use that exact word. She just said there were people she saw before someone passed. Said they came quietly like fog under a door. Some were men, some women. Never the same face twice, but always the same feeling, like the air went heavy and the light bent wrong. She said they stood near the dying and waited. They didn't speak, just were. At first, I thought it was the disease or maybe side effects from her meds, but the way she said it, it wasn't confused. She said it like fact, like weather. There was one in my room last night, she whispered to me once while I trimmed her fingernails. Tall man, hands like piano keys, staring at Mrs. Pelton. She went this morning. peaceful, just slipped away. I remember the chill that crawled up my spine that day. I told her she'd imagined it. She looked at me like I was the one who didn't understand. Eventually, she got pneumonia. Bad. Ended up at a place called Fairlawn. Just temporary, they said, better care, and I didn't argue. The first time I went to visit her there, I almost turned around in the parking lot. The building felt wrong. The brick was too dark, the windows too narrow. It had that smell, antiseptic and dust and something sour underneath, the kind of place where time slows down and the world forgets you. She was in room 12. Her body looked small in the bed, like her bones were giving up. She smiled when she saw me, and for a second I thought maybe it'd be okay. But her words were slurry, and her eyes didn't quite focus. She sang a line of blessed assurance while I fixed her blanket. "Do they have watchers here too?" I asked her, joking, trying to lighten the mood, and she didn't laugh. "They're always here, sugar." Well, I started coming less after that. I hated that about myself, but I did. I told people it was the drive or work or just needing rest, but the truth is, I was scared. Not of her, of what being near her made me feel. Of the slow, creeping dread that maybe she wasn't crazy, that maybe something had started to notice me too. The last time I saw her was a Thursday, cool and rainy. The hallways felt darker than usual, and I swear every fluorescent light was buzzing at a different pitch, like a broken choir. When I got to her room, I knew immediately I was not alone. There was a man sitting in the corner chair, not a nurse, not a visitor. He wore a long black coat that didn't look like it came from any department store I'd ever seen. His hands were folded in his lap, still as stone. Fingers long and pale. His face was wrong, too symmetrical, like someone had sculpted it from memory instead of born it. I didn't speak. I didn't move. He turned and looked at me. It was like being x-rayed, like every shameful, terrified part of me was suddenly laid bare. He smiled, but not like a person smiles. It was a slow, certain thing, not kind, not cruel, just final. And that's when I knew. I knew every word my mother had whispered to me was real. I knew the watchers were not just a symptom. I knew the air could hold secrets, that death had company. I backed out of the room, didn't say goodbye, didn't kiss her forehead or squeeze her hand. I just left. I got in my car, drove to my apartment, pulled the shades, and crawled into bed. I didn't leave that bed for 6 days. I didn't eat, barely drank, just stared at the wall with this crushing weight in my chest like I was being buried alive by my own cowardice. I didn't even answer the phone when it rang. I already knew what it was going to say. She passed on the 7th day, peacefully, they said, in her sleep. And I cried. God, I cried, but here's the part I hate admitting. The first thing I felt was relief. Not peace, not sadness, relief, because she was gone, yes, because she didn't suffer, maybe, but mostly because it meant I didn't have to see that man again. I wish that had been the end of it, though, because I do still see him sometimes. Not fully, not like at Fairlawn, just little things. a reflection in a store window that doesn't match my angle, a coat sleeve vanishing around a corner where no one could have gone. Once, on a crowded train, I felt the air shift, and when I looked up, every person in my car was staring out the window, blank and motionless, just for a second. I think he's waiting. Not for me, at least, not yet. But someday.
Subject, Southbound. User, L0STGirlX. Posted, March 9th, 1998.
Okay, I don't even know how to start this. I usually don't post on here, and I've just been lurking for a couple weeks, reading other people's stories, trying to convince myself most of y'all are either really creative or really full of shit. No offense, but something happened to me last year. Spring break, 97, and no matter how much I try to forget it or laugh it off, I can't. It's like something got stuck in me, and if I don't get it out soon, I feel like I'm gonna lose my damn mind. I haven't told anyone about it. Not my roommates, not my boyfriend, not even the other girls who were with me when it happened. We just moved on. Like it didn't happen. Like we all agreed without saying it to pretend. But it did happen. We were driving to Panama City Beach. Me, Jules, Maya, and Veronica, and all of us were juniors at UT. Jules had borrowed her mom's car, a maroon Bonneville with the world's squeakiest brakes and a cassette deck that only worked when you wedged a folded-up Newport pack under the tape. We'd all chipped in for gas, snacks, and a jug of some green jungle juice that tasted like battery acid. It was late when we crossed into Florida, probably midnight. Jules was driving. Maya was riding shotgun, chain-smoking camels, and flipping through a tattered Cosmo. I was behind the driver, half asleep, and Veronica was passed out across our laps in the back seat. We had Natalie and Bruglia playing, I remember that much, and a bag of Doritos spilled all over the floorboard. Then the car started acting funny. Not a sputter, not a slow fade even. It was like something reached into the engine and flipped a switch. Boom. Headlights out, music dead, dashboard dark. The whole thing just died in motion. Jules cursed and steered it onto the shoulder, and we rolled to a stop with that awful screech from the brakes. At first, we thought it was the battery, the alternator. I mean, none of us really knew shit about cars, but we got out, popped the hood, stared at it like that was gonna help. The sky was pitch black. No moon, just tall trees on either side of the road like they were leaning in to listen. It was silent. Not quiet. Silent. No bugs. No wind. No sound at all except for our own voices. Then we heard something in the woods. Crunching. Not twigs. Bigger than that. Heavy. Slow, like something dragging. We froze. Maya whispered, "Did y'all hear that?" Jules laughed, but it was nervous, high-pitched, probably a deer. Then came the light. Just one at first, blue, dim, not a flashlight, not a car. It was out in the trees, about 10, maybe 15 feet off the ground, just hovering. And then a second light blinked on next to it. Same size, same glow. They pulsed a little like a heartbeat. Veronica woke up and said, "Are we getting pulled over?" We all shushed her. The lights started moving. Not fast, just this slow, drifting motion through the trees, like they were searching. They weren't headlights. They weren't anything normal. They had this weird shimmer to them, like light underwater. And then something stepped out between them. It was tall, like really tall, but hunched with long arms that hung too low, almost to the ground. Its skin, or maybe fur, I guess, was this slick gray-green color, and it moved like it didn't have bones, just slow and gliding, unnatural. Its head was long and flat, kind of like a lizard's, but with no eyes that we could see. No mouth either, just a line where one should be. I swear to God, it turned and looked right at us. We all screamed. Jules jumped in the car and locked the doors. We piled in after her, shaking, crying, yelling over each other. I remember Veronica started praying. I was trying not to piss myself, and I kept thinking, this isn't real. This isn't real. This is some kind of prank. And then it walked up to the car. It moved slow and deliberate, dragging something behind it that made this soft scraping sound, and leaned in against the passenger window, Maya's side, and breathed. That's the part I can't shake. The fog it left on the glass. It wasn't a face smudge. It was big, wide, and too high, like the thing was taller than the car easy. The condensation lingered, then dripped like actual moisture from its breath. Maya was frozen. She didn't even blink. It circled the car, and we could hear it, claws or nails or whatever the hell it had, clicking on the pavement, and it stopped by my side. I couldn't look. I just shut my eyes and waited to die, but it didn't do anything. It stood there for a second, then turned and walked back into the trees. The lights followed it, one, then the other, and then everything was gone. It was dark again, and then the car started. I swear to God, the lights came back on, the tape started spinning, and Natalie picked up right where she left off. None of us said a damn word for the rest of the drive. We got to the hotel, checked in, and went to bed without unpacking, and you know what? None of us have said a damn word ever since.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.